Most people talk too much. They think influence is about sounding smart, talking fast, or throwing facts like grenades. But the real masters, they don't talk first. They listen. And when they finally speak, it feels like truth, even if it's not. It feels like your idea, even if it wasn't. It feels right, even if it's a trap. The trick? Listen first. Then use this one tactic that flips the whole game. Because influence isn't about volume, it's about control, without them ever realizing it. By the way, if you enjoy deep, thought-provoking insights on Stoicism, self-improvement, and navigating life with wisdom, you'll love my free newsletter. Every Sunday, I share powerful lessons, controversial truths, and practical strategies to help you level up, all for free. Want to join? Sign up using the link below and start receiving value-packed content straight to your inbox every week. And if you're a brand looking to sponsor my content and reach a highly engaged audience, feel free to reach out via my email in the description. Let's create something impactful together. 1. End conversations on a high note, even if it feels wrong. Let me tell you a harsh truth. Most people talk themselves out of influence. They start strong, then keep going and going and going until the magic dies and the moment's gone. They don't realize the secret isn't just what you say. It's when you stop. Ending a conversation on a high note is one of the most powerful, yet most ignored tactics of influence. And it's because we're all addicted to just a little longer. We crave more attention, more validation, more dopamine. But I learned this the hard way. A few years ago, I was on this incredible date. I'm talking fireworks. She laughed at all my jokes. We bonded over music, shared the same dark sense of humor, even had matching coffee orders. It was one of those rare moments where you feel like you've known someone for years, after just 30 minutes. I should have ended it right there, but I didn't. I kept it going. Let's grab dessert, then let's walk by the river, then more talking, and slowly, like a balloon losing air, the energy died. The night ended with a weird hug, not awkward, but definitely not exciting. The next day, she texted, "Hey, last night was fun, but I think the vibe faded. Let's just be friends." That one stung hard. So I replayed everything. What did I say wrong? Was I too intense? Did I misread something? And then it hit me. I didn't end the conversation on a high note. I dragged it out until it was forgettable. I killed the moment, trying to keep it alive. There's a rule in psychology called the peak end rule. It says that people don't remember the entire experience. They remember the peak and the end. If the end is bad or even just flat, they remember the whole thing as being just okay. But if the end is strong, even if the rest was average, they remember it as amazing. Once I internalized that, everything changed. I started ending every conversation while the other person was still laughing or intrigued. Whether it was a date, a client call, or just small talk at a cafe. The moment I felt the peak, I'd lean in and say something like, "I'm loving this convo, and I want to leave it on a high note. Let's pick it up another time." And boom, suddenly I was the most memorable person in the room. It's controversial, I know. Most people are terrified to walk away when things are going well, but that's exactly why it works, because everyone else overstays. Everyone else tries to squeeze out one more laugh, one more point, one more compliment. But the people who leave while the energy is high, they leave an impression. They make people crave more. They're remembered, talked about, respected, sometimes even obsessed over. It's the same reason comedians don't end their show with a sad story. They end with their strongest punchline, drop the mic, walk off, because that's what sticks. So if you want to influence someone, if you want them thinking about you long after you're gone, don't give them closure, give them curiosity. Leave while the fire's still burning. Leave before the magic becomes mundane. Leave while they're still leaning in, wanting more. Let everyone else talk themselves into being forgettable. You walk away unforgettable. 2. Say their name more than once. Yes, even if it feels cringy. This might sound too simple to matter. It might even sound manipulative. But if you want to influence someone, if you want to make them feel like they matter to you, then you better start using their name. And not just once. Say it twice, 3 times, more. Because a name is not just a label, it's an identity. It's a trigger. It's a power switch in someone's brain that says, hey, you see me, I'm not invisible. I used to be one of those people who avoided names. I'd say, hey man, what's up dude, or good to see you. Even in professional settings, I'd dodge names because I was afraid I'd pronounce them wrong, or worse, forget them halfway through the conversation. Then I met Julian. Julian was one of those people who made you feel like the only person in the room. First time we spoke, he said my name 4 times in 5 minutes. Nice to meet you, James. So, tell me, James, what got you into this? I love that idea, James. That's sharp. Let's definitely keep this going, James. I left that interaction feeling weirdly seen, and honestly, I wanted to impress him, and I couldn't stop thinking about him afterward. Not in a weird way, but in a that guy's important kind of way. Why? Because he treated me like I was important. That's when I realized saying someone's name isn't about flattery. It's not fake. It's actually a deep psychological lever. According to studies in neuroscience, when someone hears their name, their brain literally lights up, more than when they hear compliments or rewards. You could praise someone all day, but when you drop their name into the conversation, it hits different, because it tells their subconscious, you matter, you exist, I acknowledge you. But here's where it gets controversial. Most people don't use names often because they think it feels awkward or manipulative. They're afraid it sounds too salesy, too fake, too obvious. But let me ask you this. Do you think someone who barely remembers your name has influence over you? Nope. Do you trust someone who constantly says, "What was your name again?" halfway through a convo? Absolutely not. You trust people who make you feel seen. You follow people who make you feel like you matter. And here's the trick. Don't just throw their name in randomly. Tie it to emotion. Use it when you agree with them. Use it when you challenge them. Use it when you thank them. Try something like, "That's a really good point, Jacob." "You know what, Sarah? I hadn't thought of it that way." "Thanks for being honest with me, Priya. I really respect that." And don't be afraid to say it more than once. Twice is good. 3 times? Better. Just space it out. Be natural. And if someone has a unique or uncommon name, learn it. Say it right. Ask again if needed. Because when you respect someone's name, you respect them. Let me give you another real-life example. I once went to a networking event where a guy named Amir introduced himself. I repeated his name right away. "Amir, great to meet you." Then again when I asked him something, "So Amir, what brings you here?" Then once more when I said goodbye, "Amir, I'm really glad we connected. Let's talk again soon." Weeks later, we ran into each other again. He shook my hand and said, "Dude, I don't remember half the people from that night, but I remembered you. You used my name like 5 times. It stuck with me. That's when I knew. This trick works. It's not flashy. It's not complicated, but it's effective. If you want people to remember you, respect you, open up to you, or trust you, say their name repeatedly, with intention. Don't whisper it. Don't mumble it. Say it clearly. Say it like it matters. Because to them, it does. Remember, everyone else is saying generic words. You're saying the one word that matters most, their name. 3. Reveal a tiny personal flaw. Yes, vulnerability is influence. You want to know what kills trust instantly? Perfection. Trying too hard to seem flawless, composed, untouchable. The perfect smile, perfect story, perfect resume. It's impressive, but it's not relatable. And here's the punchline. People don't trust perfection. They admire it from a distance, but they don't get close to it. Want real influence? Then reveal a tiny personal flaw, not a major confession, not your deepest trauma, just a little crack in the armor. Because when someone sees your flaw and you're okay with it, they feel safe being real with you. Let me share a story. I was once in a high-stakes pitch meeting. I'd rehearsed my lines, wore my sharpest outfit, had my PowerPoint slides locked in like a TED Talk. I walked in confident, borderline robotic, and I noticed the room was cold. Not literally, just emotionally. People were nodding, but no one was engaged. So I paused mid-pitch and said, "Sorry, can I admit something kind of embarrassing? I practiced this presentation in my bathroom mirror last night. My toothbrush gave me more enthusiasm than you guys." The room broke out laughing, tension gone. People leaned forward. One guy even said, "That's the most human thing I've heard all week." From that point on, they listened, really listened, because I stopped being a presenter and started being a person. That's the magic. Revealing a tiny personal flaw makes you disarming. It short-circuits their suspicion. It makes them feel like, wait, you're like me. And don't get it twisted. This isn't about self-deprecation. It's about strategic vulnerability. You're not tearing yourself down. You're letting people in. I once met this guy named Leo at a retreat. First impression, suave, confident, smooth talker. But when we were chatting about dating, he said, "I still get nervous texting someone I like. I type and delete messages like 12 times. I remember smiling and thinking, finally, someone real. That tiny confession made me trust him more. And guess what? The room trusted him more too. People started opening up, sharing stories, because Leo went first. Here's the controversial part. Most people try to lead with strength. But the real leaders, the real influencers, they lead with just enough softness to remind you they bleed like you. You want to build influence? Next time you're in a deep convo, casually reveal something like, "I always forget names. It's my worst habit. I talk too fast when I'm excited. Sorry if I'm rambling. I used to be terrible at conversations. I'd rehearse what to say in my head." Say it with a smile, with ease, with confidence. Because showing a flaw while being comfortable with it says, "I know I'm not perfect, and I'm not trying to be." That's where trust lives. That's where connection starts. And ironically, that's what makes people think you're stronger than everyone else who's trying so hard to hide their flaws. Be the person who isn't afraid to go first, to admit the obvious, to shrug at their imperfections. Because that's what makes people drop their walls. You don't influence people by towering above them. You influence them by sitting next to them. Start small. A little flaw, a quick story, a wink at your own weirdness. That's all it takes. Fourth, use we, not you, because nobody likes being talked down to. If you want to influence someone, really influence them, stop saying you so much, start saying we. It seems small, right? Just a word. But in a conversation, you sounds like blame. We feels like a bond. Think about the difference. You always procrastinate versus we all procrastinate sometimes. Which one makes you defensive? Which one makes you feel understood? Exactly. You put someone in the spotlight, under judgment. Even if your tone is soft, their subconscious hears, you're the problem, you need to change. But when you say we, it becomes shared, inclusive, less confrontational, more human. Let me give you an example from my own life. I used to give advice to a friend who struggled with self-discipline. Every time we talked, I'd say things like, "You need to stop sleeping so late. You should get serious about your goals. You're wasting your time, man." Guess what happened? He stopped opening up to me. One day, he finally said, "It feels like you're lecturing me all the time." That stung. So the next time we talked, I changed it up. I said, "Man, we both get distracted by dumb stuff sometimes. We've got to stop giving our energy to things that don't grow us. We should hold each other accountable more." The difference was immediate. He relaxed, opened up, and started actually listening. Because when you say we, people don't feel attacked. They feel included. They feel like they're not being fixed. They're being understood. And here's the twist most people don't realize. When you use we, even when you're not struggling with the same thing, it still builds trust. It shows humility. It shows that you're on the same level. You're not above them. You're beside them. This is one of the most subtle psychological tricks used by great leaders, speakers, and influencers. Go watch any powerful TED Talk or presidential speech. They rarely say, "you." They say, "We've come a long way. We face real challenges. We must do better." Because it's not about making you feel like you're failing. It's about making us feel like we're in this together. Even when you're giving feedback, coaching, or leading a team, try this. Instead of, "You messed up this part," say, "We might have miscommunicated here." Instead of, "You need to be more consistent," say, "We all fall off sometimes. Let's find a rhythm." It sounds like a small shift, but to the person hearing it, it's the difference between feeling judged and feeling safe. Now let's talk controversy. Why do so many people default to you anyway? Because it's easier to blame. It feels more direct, more assertive. But real influence isn't about being dominant. It's about being effective. And if your words put someone in defense mode, guess what? They're not hearing you anymore. You want buy-in? You want them to actually change. Make them feel like they're not doing it alone. People don't change when you point fingers. They change when you reach out a hand. So next time you're about to give advice, motivate someone, or deliver hard truth, stop yourself. Say, "We," mean it, and watch how much more they trust you. Because influence isn't about being above someone. It's about reminding them that you're both human. 5, make them feel like it was their idea, even if you orchestrated it all. If you really want to influence someone, stop trying to win the conversation. Start playing the long game. Make them feel like the idea came from them, even if you planted the seed. Because here's the brutal truth most people ignore. People rarely resist their own ideas. They only resist yours. And if they feel like you're pushing them, they'll push back, even if they agree with you deep down. This isn't manipulation. This is psychology. It's what master persuaders, great leaders, and smart parents all understand. It's not about being right. It's about making the other person feel empowered. Let me give you an example that changed how I speak to people forever. Years ago, I had a co-worker who refused to take advice. It didn't matter how practical or helpful my suggestion was. If I said it, he rejected it instantly. So one day, I flipped the script. We were working on a marketing campaign, and I had an idea I knew would work. But instead of saying, "Hey, we should try this," I asked him a question. "What do you think would happen if we flipped the headline to something more emotional?" Boom! His eyes lit up. He thought for a second and said, "Actually, that might work. Maybe we use something like struggling to focus instead of the usual stuff." I nodded. I like that. Guess what happened? He ran with my idea, thinking it was his. He pitched it to the boss like he invented it, and I let him. Because I wasn't there for credit. I was there for results. This is the secret. If you need your ego stroked, go argue online. But if you want to influence people in real life, let them take the bow. You don't need to say, "That was my idea," because the best influencers, they're invisible. They guide the conversation with questions. They drop subtle hints. They say things like, "I wonder what would happen if... Do you think this could work? What's your take on this idea I've been playing with?" That's how you plant seeds in someone's brain, without triggering their ego. Let's be honest, most people are too proud to be told what to do, but if they feel like they discovered the idea themselves, they'll defend it, promote it, own it. Here's a more personal example. I had a close friend who was in a toxic relationship. Everyone told her to leave. She wouldn't listen, so I stopped giving advice. Instead, I asked questions. Do you feel respected in this relationship? When was the last time you felt truly happy with him? What would you tell your younger sister to do in your shoes? I never once said, "Leave him." But guess what? A week later, she came to me and said, "I've been thinking. I need to walk away. I don't feel like myself anymore." She made the decision, but I guided her there, gently, quietly, powerfully. Here's the controversial part most people hate to hear. Influence isn't about being heard, it's about being felt. And most of the time, the best thing you can do is let someone else believe the idea was theirs. That's what makes it stick. That's what makes it real for them. So next time you want to change someone's mind, don't bulldoze them. Don't say, "I told you so." Don't make it about you. Ask questions, drop hints, be subtle, and when they finally say, "I think I've figured it out," just smile and say, "That's a brilliant idea." Because true influence isn't loud, it's smooth, quiet, calculated, and crazy effective. 6. Mirror their emotions, not just their words. That's where real influence happens. Most people think mirroring is just about copying someone's words, posture, or tone. They read some shallow trick in a psychology book that says, "Repeat what they say, and they'll feel understood." Sure, that works for robots. But if you want to connect with a real human being, if you want to influence them on a deep level, you don't mirror their words, you mirror their emotions. Because people don't want to be agreed with. They want to be felt. Let me explain. Years ago, I had a friend going through a brutal breakup. She sat across from me, tears in her eyes, telling me how worthless she felt. And like an idiot, I went full advice mode. You'll find someone better. Time heals. You deserve more. All true, all useless. Her eyes glazed over. She didn't feel heard. because I wasn't mirroring her pain. I was trying to fix it. Now contrast that with what I learned later. Another time, someone opened up about losing their job, and this time I did it differently. I felt what they were feeling. I slowed down. I dropped my tone. I said, "That must feel like everything just got ripped out from under you." It's scary, isn't it? That sudden feeling of not knowing what's next. And suddenly, they leaned in. They opened up. Because I wasn't analyzing the problem, I was feeling the weight of it with them. And that's when you earn influence. That's when people actually listen. Because influence doesn't start with speaking, it starts with absorbing. Here's the truth most people miss. You can't redirect someone's emotions until you've reflected them. And yeah, this works even in tough conversations, maybe especially then. Let's say someone is angry at you, defensive. Instead of matching their words like a parrot, you're angry. Match their emotional tempo. Slow your voice down. Lower your tone. Match their frustration with calm intensity. Say things like, "I can see how that would piss you off. I'd probably feel the same way in your shoes. That situation really let you down, huh?" When they feel you're on their emotional wavelength, their defenses lower. They stop bracing themselves for a fight, and they start opening themselves to a shift. It's like tuning into someone's radio frequency. You can't blast your message through static. You have to tune in first, then speak. Even in sales, leadership, or relationships, this works like magic. If someone's excited, match that energy. If they're hesitant, don't bulldoze with confidence. Mirror their caution. Here's the controversial part. Most people don't listen to understand. They listen to respond, or worse, to correct. That's why their influence sucks. Because influence doesn't come from sounding smart. It comes from making someone feel like, "Damn, you actually get me." So try this next time. Forget the words. Feel the emotion behind them. Then match that and gently guide it. Because when people feel emotionally mirrored, they trust you. And when they trust you, you can lead them anywhere. 7. Point out common enemies. It instantly builds bond and influence. Here's a wild truth most people won't admit. Nothing unites people faster than a shared enemy. You can spend years trying to build rapport with someone through compliments, small talk, and common interests. Or TT. In just one moment, you can point out a shared frustration, and boom, instant connection. I know it sounds aggressive, but this isn't about being hateful. It's about being human, because whether we like it or not, we bond through conflict. Not against each other, but with each other, against something else. Let me tell you a story. Back when I worked at a corporate job I hated, I had a colleague I could never connect with. We were from different worlds. He was uptight, I was laid back. He liked structure, I liked flexibility. But one day during a lunch break, he vented, "If I get one more email from upper management asking us to circle back and pivot, I'm going to lose it." I laughed. I felt that in my soul. So I said, "You mean those PowerPoint warriors who haven't done actual work since 2012? He chuckled. We locked eyes, and from that day on, we clicked. Not because we suddenly had the same hobbies, not because I complimented his tie, but because we had a common enemy, corporate buzzword zombies who made our lives miserable. That one shared irritation. It made us a team. Here's the psychology. When you point out a common enemy, whether it's an annoying boss, toxic trend, bad customer, manipulative social norm, or even just the weather, you say, without saying it, we're on the same side of the battlefield. And people love that. Because deep down, nobody wants to feel alone in their struggle. They want to know someone sees what they see, feels what they feel, fights what they fight. Now, here's the spicy part most nice guys won't like. You don't build the strongest tribes through shared dreams. You build them through shared enemies. Think about it. Batman didn't bond with Gotham through motivational speeches. He fought their criminals. Political parties don't unite through common goals. They unite through common opponents. Best friends usually start as co-conspirators against a teacher, a manager, or an unfair system. So if you want to gain influence fast, don't just tell people what you stand for. Point out what you both stand against. This works in conversation too. Let's say you're in a meeting and someone seems cold. You say, "You ever notice how half of these Zoom meetings could have just been an email?" Watch their face. If they smirk, you've got them. Now you're both soldiers in the same war, against unnecessary meetings. Boom, instant bond. This even works in relationships. My partner and I didn't bond over favorite songs. We bonded over how much we both hated small talk and loud clubs. That little spark of mutual dislike lit a fire of connection. Now, don't go around trashing people to gain friends. Be smart, be subtle, be strategic. But know this: people might respect your values, but they connect through your villains. So next time you're trying to influence someone, especially if the conversation feels cold, stiff, or too formal, try this trick. Spot the shared irritation. Laugh at it, acknowledge it, expose it, and suddenly you're no longer strangers, you're allies. And from there, influence comes naturally. Influence isn't about being loud, it's about being emotionally sharp. People follow those who listen first, mirror emotions, and make them feel seen. Use these 7 techniques wisely, not to manipulate, but to connect. Because true influence, it starts when people don't just hear you, they feel you.